Billy Ben. Tell your love a thing for me, will you?
What's that?
Tell her not to start making her wedding dress right yet.
Why should I tell her a thing like that?
She ain't married you yet, Billy Ben. Maybe she never will.
There was Ellie Glover, dark was Jess-Belle. Both they loved the same man, and both they loved him well.
Hello, and welcome to the Twilight Pwn, the internet's third most popular Twilight Zone podcast. My name is John. I'm joined by my co-host, Fred.
Hello.
How you doing this week, Fred?
I'm good. I'm a little bit out of it, but for a fun reason, which was that I got to go to a taping of Saturday Night Live last night.
Yes, so I've heard from my wife, who has become Facebook friends with your fiance. So she gives me the Facebook scoop that I miss.
Nice. Do you guys have like a daily routine for that, or?
Yeah, it's a debrief. She gives me, the memo. So she showed me there's a picture of you actually on the floor. Now, I got to go to a taping or two, but I never got to go on the floor, post-show. How'd this work?
Well,
Explain.
I have a friend who's a writer on the show, so through some, wheeling and dealing, we got to be in the writer's room while they were taping it. And then,
cool.
Afterwards, we got to go down to the main area. It was funny to be in the writers' room while they were taping it too, because A, it's like really cool, but it's also just like you're watching it on TV, just nearer to where it is.
Right.
And B, it's funny because like all of the writers, like a bunch of people are in there, like friends and family, and everyone's laughing uproariously, but the writers themselves are just like grimacing and like frowning the whole time. So it's kind of but it was. Is there any
like Oscar night feel? Like, I imagine once they get through that rehearsal show, like there's no last minute tweaking while the show's happening, right? Like the writers just kind of, it is what it is by that point.
Actually not. Like my friend who, I don't think he had a sketch last night, but he was like producing one of them, came up to us at the beginning of it, and he was showing us just like how like they really just make, like just cross off big parts of the script like 20 minutes before it goes on, and they have to like change the cue cards. So it really is like a, kind of like how we do the podcast.
Yeah, it's a big production.
Yeah. Oh, hold on, let me just grab my intern here. And
yeah.
But needless to say, I pitched Lauren,
yeah,
full Twilight Pwn NBC special, and
we're in talks.
Yeah,
that's all we need.
I mean,
talks.
When I pitched it to him, I was on the other side of the room, and I was muttering under my breath, but I think he was picking up.
Yeah, you were like, we can get Paul Simon on there and Alec Baldwin. Yeah. Oh, it'll be great.
Yeah. I did actually weirdly. So Larry David was the host. Sorry, this is really going on too long, but Larry David was the host.
No, it's interesting for me anyway.
And like, there was a point where I was like, it was at the after party, and was like waiting to go to the.
Oh, you got to go. Man, this is pretty cool.
But yeah, at the after party, I was waiting in line, and Larry David was like right in front of me, and there was this guy who like looked a lot like Larry David, who like walked up to Larry David and was like, "Hey," and it was just this weird thing. I think he was kind of like trying to pitch him an idea for a show, and at the end of this little pitch, Larry David was like, send it to HBO."
Yeah.
No. Anyway, enough SNL talk. Let's talk Twilight Zone podcasting pledge drives now.
Now that you know that Fred rubs elbows every day with Larry David,
sure.
Give us money.
Yeah.
Clearly we...
Yeah, the two aren't necessarily related, but yeah, we're having a pledge drive to cover the hosting costs of the Twilight Pwn. If you donate, you don't just get the satisfaction of funding the internet's third most popular Twilight Zone podcast. You also get a free advanced download of our episode on Time Enough at Last. But wait, there's more, Johnny.
Yes, if you donate at the $10 level or more, we're going to give you our special exclusive Too Hot for iTunes cut. Now this, in past years when we've done this extra extended bonus edition, it gets sent out to our high-level donors, and then it never goes out there.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm not 100% confident I have a copy of it anymore. So
Neither am I.
high-level donors from last year, if you want to mail me one, we might need that for posterity.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
So, yeah, you'll get it's about 10 extra minutes of just discussion, some about the episode, some of us about creating 10 extra minutes of content. But,
Yeah, but it's good. It's good stuff. Head over to twilightpwn.tumblr.com. check out the PayPal link we've got there. Every little bit helps. A lot of people have done it already. We really appreciate it. And we're only going to annoy you with this maybe one more episode. So thanks for bearing with us. But let's get down to business. Today's episode, what is it?
Jess-Belle, a 4th season episode, the 109th of the production run. It originally aired on February 14th, 1963, which means, A, this was the Valentine's Day episode, so keep that in mind. That's kind of cool. And B, this episode pretty much aired this week 53 years ago. I think this is only maybe the second time that we've gotten relatively close to the actual air week time. But so there we go. Cool. Here's Serling.
The Twilight Zone has existed in many lands and many times. It has its roots in history, in something that happened long, long ago and got told about and handed down from one generation of folk to the other. In the telling, the story gets added to and embroidered on, so that what might have happened in the time of the Druids is told as if it took place yesterday in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Such stories are best told by an elderly grandfather on a cold winter's night by the fireside in the southern hills of the Twilight Zone.
But you'll have to settle for old Uncle Rod from upstate New York.
Yeah. I do like at the beginning, it almost sounds like he's like introducing a documentary about the Twilight Zone. He's like, the Twilight Zone has affected people from many lands.
It will be great for your market.
Anyway, we like to write our own Serling-style intros. Mine is short, sweet, and dumb. So
All right, let's do it.
Fair was Ellie Clover, dark was Jess-Belle. Billy Ben slept with both of them, but Jess burned in hell. In the Twilight Zone.
Cool.
That's all I got.
Like when you break out the instruments, you know?
Exactly. What about you?
For tonight's tale, y'all go on and gather round the fire for a spell with old Uncle Rodis, for I have a yarn longer than old Scratch's beard and more heroin than a gander at old Auntie May's fine unmentionables. Ya see, nigh on 88 years ago lived a feller named Billy Ben, who had found hisself in a real jelly of a jam, torn between the sweet as puddin' pie and prettier than a painted pontoon boat Elwyn, and the kind of gal ya mama done warned you about, and ya papa done tipped his a cap to in passin'. Which un will he choose, and what un will de consequences be un? Find out tonight, down to Twilight Zone.
Nice. That's a very high degree of difficulty, Serling via cornpone dialogue. It's tough to make it work, but you did.
Only took like 8 tries, but I got it. Yeah.
Stitch it together in post.
Yeah.
I'll get my producer on it. Anyway, this is a 4th season episode of The Twilight Zone, which means it's an hour long. It also means it's a little bit difficult to track down, to find it. Really, you kind of have to either own the Blu-rays or DVDs, which is recommended, or sadly, Hulu is really the only streaming source, I think, that has this one available. But they put it down deep in a paywall. So you got to drop some shekels down and get it.
For some reason, we've always been like fine with Netflix asking people to pay, but Hulu does it, and you're like, those sons of bees.
It has to do.
How dare they?
It's probably like an economic principle involving them giving it to you for free, then taking it away
For a while,
which
yeah.
makes you feel probably
They're
erroneously.
very much like drug dealers. Yes.
Exactly. They get you hooked on the good stuff, like Jess-Belle, and they take it away. Anyway, check it out before we get going, because we're about to spoil the plot, which opens on, promisingly, I would say, on a hoedown in a barn. And in the midst of all of this hooting and hollering and going on, a pretty blonde leaves the festivities to go meet her gentleman caller. Billy Ben is his name. I had to kind of keep checking that. I was like, that sounds like a joke, but lo and behold, that is his name, and it's played by the same actor who played Jeffy Myrtlebank.
Right, who plays every Southern cornpone.
He really does. He really is just kind of like a go-to cornponer, pone corner. Anyway, they get to romancing, and he asks her to close her eyes. He slips out a pretty sizable engagement ring for a cornpone farmer.
Aw, twarn't nothing, Fred.
And slips it on her finger. It's pretty much how my engagement went. How about you?
Yeah, we were definitely at a hoedown,
Yeah.
and the timing felt right.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Anyway, the engaged couple goes into the barn. The father of the bride gives a speech about the young couple, and everybody's happy and hillbillies. And then we see the introduction of a new character, Jess-Belle, a brunette,
Right.
who appears to be...
Oh, so you know she's bad.
exactly. It's pretty, like, they don't really bother to, like, blonde, good, brunette, bad. Got it? Cool.
I didn't really get the title. I mean, it's been mentioned for 3 years now, and it never occurred to me what it really meant. And then, the actress walks on stage and she has dark hair. It's like, oh, Jess, got it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right. Great.
The pun is subtle, to say the least. Anyway, yes, Jess-Belle is none too happy about the engagement. Because the blonde is just so damn good-hearted and blonde, she convinces Billy Ben to go outside and convince Jess-Belle to come back to the hoedown.
Right,
And then we see that there may be...
As gals often
Yeah.
do, I don't know. Maybe she's feeling magnanimous now that she's definitely hooked.
Yeah, exactly. Please,
Billy Ben.
get your ex-girlfriend back into the party.
I don't know. It's very slight hot or not. This one isn't strong,
Yeah.
but Elwyn, I thought, kind of looked like somewhere between Heather Locklear and Kristen Bell.
Yeah, no, I see it. I mean...
Okay, good.
I see it a little bit. So yeah, and then we get a little bit of convo between Billy Ben and Jess-Belle. Apparently they had a thing that was totally hot and heavy, and very southern.
Let's be clear.
Yeah. Do we have any of this, or?
No, I don't have this
Oh,
particular exchange.
It's
which
really funny
what
because
caught your ear.
Jess-Belle is like, reminding Billy Ben of like the times they had, and it's so like southern.
Yes.
It's like
Rubbing honeysuckle on each other.
Remember when we officiated the pig wedding? Remember when we lit them crosses on fire? Anyway, sorry, moving along. Jess-Belle kind of like at the end of this kind of like, oh, so it's like that, is it, type speech, issues a bit of a threat to Billy Ben, saying like,
Right.
now don't let that blonde hussy get too comfortable in her wedding dress. Then we get the introduction of this weird motif of this episode, which is like an unseen folk singer sort of narrating us the plot.
I did grab a couple of these,
Yeah.
and then I realized that they happen every 5 minutes or so I didn't grab all of them. But here's just like to give you an idea.
By day she knew a woman's form, by night a witch's spell. For love of Billy Turner, accursed was Jess-Belle.
It has a very strong like blaxploitation vibe to it, like when the song's just kind of relaying the plot to you.
Yeah, Shaft type of vibe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand why that's there. I mean, I guess it's to give it like a little country fried flavor, but like,
Yeah, I mean,
it's not really telling you anything new.
I can tell you the answer. If you want to know the answer of why it's there is Mr. Earl Hamner Jr.
Exactly.
firmly believed that this needed a folk song accompaniment, and so dang it all, it got one.
Yeah. It's just weird. It's like I don't know. It's not like it was a cookbook. They're going to get eaten. Like it's very unique to this episode. Even in like Come Wander With Me, it's a little
Come
more
Wander With
subtle.
Me, it's not like...
Any-
Well, I don't know how you'd clearly explain the plot of Come Wander With Me.
Let's not
but
get
still.
mired in that swamp. Let's move right along into this.
And then he tried to purchase the PD rights for the song, but the person drove a hard bargain. Yes.
Anyway, so when we get back from the commercial cuts off this folk song, when we get back from commercial, we're right smack dab in the middle of a Roger Corman movie.
Right.
It's really very much just like a community theater witch just doing some soup. And what I loved about it is like right as you see this ridiculous image of this like really, corny witch scene and this cackling, you see Earl Hamner Jr.'s name appear on the screen, and it's just like, got it, I know where we are. I know what this is all about.
That's synergy, Fred.
So yeah, it is kind of like a cute little reveal though, because you first see this witch character, and she looks like a sort of Macbeth type witch, and then you hear a knock on the door, and she pulls off her cloak, and she just kind of looks like a kindly Southern gentlewoman. And this character, what's her name? She's
Granny Hart.
It's Granny Hart. And Jess-Belle has come to visit her.
Come a-callin', yeah.
To help enlist her services to secure the affections of one Billy Ben. There's some sort of potion or something that Granny Hart can use to help out Jess-Belle, but she's got to get that paper. So Jess-Belle offers to pay with this like silver comb, but apparently witches don't like silver.
Yeah, that was very subtle, skillful foreshadowing they give us, where she hands a silver coin or something, and the witch just goes, "Ah, no!" Like, I wonder if this is going to pay off later.
Yeah. Totally. There's almost like a wink right in the middle of that. Right. Yeah. To me, it just kind of was like, is this turning into some sort of weird, like, redneck gift of the Magi with a witch thrown in there as well? It's like, I gave the witch my silver comb and it burned her to death. But then the fire, like...
So, yes, as almost every transaction in the Twilight Zone goes, there's going to be a higher price.
Well, I got something I could give you, but... price is high.
What is the price?
You'll know in the midnight hour of time.
Whatever it is, I'll pay.
I just kept that in because that's kind of good score.
Oh, I like the score, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a weird,
cool,
like...
ominous, draggy noise.
Yeah, it's like almost sounds electronic in some points, like an organ or something. But it's weird, like, that's a strange... I would not take that deal. You'll know in the midnight hour.
It's like when you go to a restaurant and they don't have the price on the menu. You just know this isn't going to go well.
Just like, why? You could just... I mean, is it some sort of weird, like, APR financing that, like, takes advantage of fluctuations in the market? Like, why? I don't know. Whatever. She agrees to it because she's in love. That's the point. And so Granny Witch gives Jess-Belle this love potion. She drinks it down, and we cut back to the never-ending hoedown. It's funny.
I did have that note. It's like how you presume there's passage of time, but I guess maybe it's a small town. Maybe she just ran like 5 minutes away. But it did make me think: is this like one of those like Charleston competitions from the 20s hoedowns where they're just going to dance for like 48 hours straight?
But apparently the hoedown is still going on. Billy Ben lays eyes on Jess-Belle, and they start dancing real slow and just walk out together, much to the shock and titillation of everyone there.
Yeah, I did find the collar, and what's the proper terminology for the hoedown collar?
Gosh.
Apparently just collar is the proper term. I felt like he wasn't really given it very much, and that brought me back to, and I wanted to get your thoughts on Son-in-Law, the Pauly Shore vehicle from the mid-90s.
Is that the one where he like goes into Amish country or something?
Well, he goes into, I think, South Dakota.
Same thing.
And, you know. Well, he lives around. They're farmers. They're not like, you know, bearded, you know.
Don't get me stuck in the details. So, is there like a hoedown scene or something?
Oh yeah, there's quite a famous, you know, like any That's Entertainment Oscar package is gonna have this bit where there's a hoedown and the caller is a little lackluster, so Pauly Shore gets up and does his own weasel-inspired calls.
Sounds good.
I'm surprised you haven't seen. I feel like this is the best Pauly Shore movie, and I know that's, you know, not the highest of bars. But
exactly. I don't know. I feel like I probably did see it. Did it come out in like the 90s, you know?
Yeah.
I probably was like watching it while like practicing kick flips in my friend's living room while like Green Day's Basket Case was on, you know? Like, I probably like took it in a very 90s way, but like didn't really process it.
Fair enough. Okay.
I will say I was kind of bummed that it wasn't Serling doing the hoedown. Swing your partner in a maneuver that can be considered circular in nature. After the hoedown, we cut to some pretty hot Twilight Zone action. This is like, I want to say the sexiest scene we've seen since like the weird astronaut like spent 5 minutes playing with the hair of the other astronaut. Do you remember that one? They're like lying in a bed. Jess-Belle and Billy Ben are lying in a bed of hay and kind of making out. It's pretty.
I guess it didn't really register as much for me. I personally, these two didn't do it for me, this pairing. So maybe that's my own
I mean,
problem.
it wasn't like HBO, but like,
right.
You know, it was
Yeah,
definitely
this was their sex position scene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Here, I did have a quick hotter note. I feel a little better about this one.
Okay.
For Jess-Belle.
Yeah.
Stockard Channing.
Been a while
Maybe
since
try
I
and find
looked at
old Stockard Channing, or I mean, try and find a like older picture because
Yeah, I see it. I definitely see it. It's there.
Yeah.
It's definitely there.
Woohoo!
She has
It's
like
there.
it's the actress Anne Francis who we last saw in After
After
Hours,
Hours.
and I think
Yeah.
naturally she's light fair haired, but she's wearing kind
Right.
of like a wig. Just,
Yeah, it creates kind of a weird
look,
because
yeah.
she's got the very blue or at least pale eyes with the very dark hair.
Yeah,
Looks
it
a little
kind of
off.
reminds me of like when like girls in my high school used to go to like Rocky Horror Picture Show and they'd put on, it's it's got like a bit of like a
when they used to go to late night in the Army Now or jury duty double screenings.
yeah, exactly. I don't get that joke, but yeah.
Pauly Shore movies, man.
sorry.
Come on,
Sorry.
you don't even know them. You don't have to see them. You just got to know them. What if this comes up at a cocktail party, Fred?
I have very shallow knowledge of Pauly Shore movies.
Mile wide, but an inch deep. I'm learning.
She's got, I don't know, Jess-Belle she just kind of looks like someone kind of like dipping her toes into like gothdom,
Right,
like very
right.
lightly. But anyway, she's making out with Billy Ben, and they exchange more tender okra.
Billy Ben just sounds like a bear at a Chuck E. Cheese more than a real character.
There's never been a human named Billy Ben. Yeah, there's definitely been like bears and like mascots and like
Right.
ships and trucks and stuff, but
Behind jams.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, Jess-Belle's got to go at midnight all of a sudden because she's got to pay her price. And when she dashes off, sort of Cinderella style, she gets home, she locks herself in a room, and I've seen most episodes of The Twilight Zone. I haven't seen this one, and I have to admit I was not suspecting what happens next.
You didn't catch all the foreshadowing?
I mean, I knew something would happen, but like I did not expect like a cloud of smoke to appear and for her to be replaced by like a very confused looking cheetah. That was not really where I thought this was going.
Fred, it's the classic. Well, you didn't grow up in the South,
Right,
so you don't
true.
know the classic yarn about the woman, the no good cheating woman and the cheetah.
Right. Is that a cheetah? Like, I mean, is it a leopard? What is it? It looks like a cheetah, basically, right?
I'm not well versed enough to know the
Okay.
difference between a leopard and a cheetah, and in fact, if there are different animals or just different terminology. Because, I mean, there's discussion in this episode about mountain lions, and I do know the mountain lion is called by many names.
Yeah, but that doesn't look like a mountain lion has just like
It's
straight up-
definitely well they make the point. It's definitely not that.
Yeah.
Google tells me their leopard and cheetah are different. The leopard is nocturnal and the cheetah is diurnal.
Whatever it is, it looks quite embarrassed to be in this episode. It looks very...
Yeah, I'm just going to say this cheetah doesn't necessarily have the presence of, what's his name, from the jungle.
Zamba the lion, or...
Zamba.
Yeah,
Zamba was able to bring something to the role that this
Yeah.
cheetah's lacking.
Yeah. I mean, it had that cheetah look. The looks
Sure.
were there.
Oh, it was probably the hottest cheetah in Hollywood at the time. But it was just a face.
When we get back from commercial, the weird, like, musical thing is happening. There is a cheetah. Anyway,
You probably didn't see that coming.
Billy arrives at Jess-Belle's internship and regifts his engagement ring. And he tries to kind of like push the date of the wedding, Apparently
Yeah, is
Jess-Belle's got a bit of cold feet.
Every minute I'm away from you is a suffering and a torment.
Suffering and torment. You know what suffering and torment means?
Sure. It's having a girl that your heart's craving and have her keep putting the wedding day off.
All kinds of torment in the world, I reckon.
What would you know of torment, girl?
The torment comes from buying something, finding out the price is dear.
Well, what did you buy that cost so dear?
Something I love.
You still love it, though the price was high?
Better in life.
Better than me?
Ain't nothing
Real good conversation there. Very natural.
Well, it's subtle.
Yeah,
it's subtle.
exactly.
You can't quite figure out the ambiguities.
The torment of turning into a cheetah at midnight every night. And then it's back to Granny Hart, and Jess-Belle is finding out that in addition to the whole cheetah clause of the love potion contract, she also lost her soul in the bargain.
Yeah, and she has a pretty strict return policy.
Change me back. Please, I'll pay. I promise I'll pay.
Well, your promises ain't much good. You're already trying to get out of paying for the first favor I done you.
I can't live this way. Please.
Take the man you bargained for. Witch's love.
I can't do that to Billy Bane.
You paid the price. Take what you paid for.
I do like that read a lot.
Yeah. I like the woman playing the witch, you know.
Yeah.
She's just having fun with it. I think she was the woman from The Hunt, too, wasn't she?
She was indeed.
Nice.
Blood on the moon.
Yeah. Blood on the moon. I like A Witch's Love. That sounds like a good, like, really crappy B movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, I don't know. This deal wasn't so great. I mean, she just gets like a slobbering hillbilly, and A, she turns into a cheetah every night. B, she lost her soul, which isn't really touched on that much. That seems to be pretty big, but whatever.
Well, that's kind of a tertiary
Yeah.
loss, you know?
Sure. And then it also
She was already a brunette, Fred. I mean, what did she really have?
one short step.
She wasn't going to heaven, so...
Nice. But she's also a witch, too. I guess it's all just part of the package. I don't understand why.
Normally they give you a pretty thorough brochure. I think this witch just kind of a little sloppy.
Yeah, it's kind of like a subprime mortgage or something like that. Is, designed to.
This is why you really want to have either like an attorney or a shaman look over any kind of contract with a witch.
Yeah, this witch is just trying to move units so that like people's souls can be bundled into tranches. And
Right, exactly.
Jess-Belle goes running over to Billy Ben's house and tells him the bad news that there's not gonna be a wedding. Very novel way to get out of an engagement, turning into a witch. But she dashes out to beat her curfew before Billy Ben gets to the bottom of the whole thing. And he goes chasing out to try and get her. And at this point, we get just a really enjoyable shot of
this. Oh, good. I'm glad you noticed this as well.
Just Billy Ben just kind of like walking out into his like front yard and like looking around for Jess-Belle, and very conspicuously the giant cheetah like on the roof, like right there.
And
he just
for the less discerning viewer, the camera then pans and zooms in on the cheetah. I just love to imagine like people gathered around their 9-inch televisions in 1963 or whatever, and we're just like, well, where'd she go? Where is it? What's it? Oh, there's a cheetah.
He really has to try not to notice this cheetah. The roof is also not that high. Like, it's not like, on top of like a 3-story walk-up. Like, the cheetah is basically eye level with Billy Ben. When we get back from the commercial, we see the cheetah creeping around Billy Ben's yard. It eventually turns into Jess-Belle, and she kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi style hears Grandma Witch's advice to her in her head. Very much like, give him a witch's love. Use the force. And she decides to kind of like, go ahead and tie the knot and give him a witch's love.
Oh, wait. Did we skip over the omen of death? I think this was right before this is all they're picking out place settings and everything. And Jess-Belle, let's drop this.
It's a night bird calling its mate.
His mate won't come. I saw her on the trail tonight, winging up against the sky. The nighthawk swooped up out of the pines, tore her breast open. She fell at my feet and ran off in the bushes to die.
It was just an omen, Jess. You don't mean you're gonna die?
It's like that. That's just an omen of death. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. What?
It's just a portent of death.
Doesn't an omen by its nature kind of signify?
You're not really assuaging my worries here. Anyway, there's somewhere in the midst of all this Southern fried nonsense, there's a really great scene of like Jess-Belle kind of like encountering the Blondie. They're talking about, it's all like kind of like veiled passive aggressive barbs. And did you get this bit about how like Jess-Belle throws this like thing of like, oh, you're picking flowers. I saw some old maid's fern up on the mountain. and the blonde girl is like, well, I've seen vixenwort nearby. Would have loved if it had just devolved.
You've got to have a very deep knowledge of botany to make this conversation work.
Well, no, just old maid's fern, you know.
Well, you gotta hope that they're using real plants, not just making this up.
Well, I was thinking it should just eventually devolve into like, there's a whole lot of bitchweed around here.
Right.
Yeah. So they exchange some more passive aggressive barbs, and it comes out that the men of this rural area are going to go hunting that night for this wildcat that's been going every which way, causing all heap of trouble. So that's obviously, stressful for Jess-Belle. Somewhere in here, sorry, this is just kind of like a big mess of Southern fried scenes, but Jess-Belle's getting fitted for an extremely sexy wedding dress, and then her mom finds out that Jess paid old Granny Witch for a love potion, and,
Yeah, I do have this. I feel like it didn't take a whole lot for her mom to put all the pieces together.
Yeah.
You and your tonics. You're worse than Granny Hart. Granny Hart. I know she sells them old potions and things. She ain't sold none to you, has she? Don't talk crazy talk. Is that what made Billy Ben Turner blind to every other woman on earth save Jess-Belle? Where would I get the money for potions and powders? That old woman don't always ask for money. That's what makes my heart turn cold as ice. Jess, how did you pay her? Oh, God, Jess, how did you pay her?
Okay, Fred. Now, we were running a little behind because I had to track something down I think you'll really appreciate. That line read really made me think of this classic scene.
Are you okay? What did that man want from you?
Nothing. Oh, that was not nothing.
Tell me everything.
You have no idea what kind of trouble you're in here, do you? I owe him some money.
What kind of money?
I owe him some money.
What kind of money?
Everything is okay. He's gone. Everything is not okay. Denny, that was a dangerous man. Calm down. He's going to jail.
Maybe what kind of money? Just tell me.
What do you need money for? How in the hell did you get involved with drugs?
For people who are utterly baffled,
Yeah, that's
just Google The Room.
Yeah,
You do yourself a big favor and check it out.
Yeah. So the mom puts the pieces together. Detective mom, Sherlock mom, puts the pieces together real quick.
You've been making potions and eating oranges.
Nice. Very nice. Good one. Well, hinky. Anyway, the mom agrees to sort of help out with this curse by locking Jess-Belle in the room, Gregor Samsa style, so she can't get out when she turns into a cheetah. And she does so. However, the extremely bored cheetah manages to sneaks out of the episode, but only makes it as far as out of the room.
Yeah. It's very Ocean's 11 vibe to that whole sequence.
Yeah, well, it kind of also reminded me of The Hunt. Like, there's just kind of like a chase sequence where you don't really know what's happening. But we're at Blondie McGee's house next. She's trying to calm her horse down. In the barn, who's spooked by the wildcat, and then Blondie looks up at the loft and sees the bored cheetah up there. And she screams. The menfolk run in and shoot the cheetah. Only it disappears in a cloud of smoke, leaving nothing behind but its engagement ring.
Right. Now it's got a real, what is it? Now you see me vibe to it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a precursor to a lot of great movies.
Yeah. What's the logic behind only the engagement? Was Jess-Belle naked except for her engagement ring when she turned into a cheetah? Like, I don't get that at all.
I wouldn't be surprised if, maybe we're not even noticing that was like a titillation aspect. But they never did show garments laying on the ground, did they?
I don't think so. Because I think only Billy Ben sees the engagement ring and kind of puts two and two together.
Which probably was a first for Billy Ben.
Yeah, exactly. It rarely arrives at 4, does Billy Ben? So at the end,
I feel like the funny thing about this is I feel the hunting party really takes the fact that they just killed a witch in stride.
Well, it's like
they're all really all right, well, time to head home.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like, oh, yep, I guess wildcats turn into puffs of smoke when you shoot them. It seemed to me like they thought they just killed the wildcat. Or vaporized it, I don't know. But They are firing like...
Yeah, those chrome-tipped bullets really did the trick. They're armor-piercing and cheetah pulverizing.
I think everyone likes the smells of fish, but like it's not quite like... No one says it out loud. But at the end of the scene, we get a little awkward X run-in between Billy Ben and Blondie. And they agree to, I don't know, reconnect on Facebook. But their romance is cut out because in the next scene, we're at like a quote-unquote wedding day, but it's not Billy Ben and Jess-Belle, it's Billy Ben and Blondie. We find out through this discussion between Jess-Belle's mom and Billy Ben that apparently Jess-Belle maybe is not really gone or dead. She keeps reappearing as an animal.
Some months back, I went into Jess-Belle's room. And there, on Jess-Belle's pillow, was a wart toad sitting. I grabbed a broom, and I brought that down with all my might on that ugly thing. And it just disappeared in a cloud of smoke and went floating out through the window.
Maybe it was just a cloud of dust. and the toad
like that
up
cheetah that we shot.
No, it was the spirit of Jess-Belle.
Miss Ossina, I saw her die.
Billy Ben, don't you know you can't kill a witch? They just changed to something else.
What kind of drugs? What kind of money, rather? Yeah, it's just...
What the hell is wrong with you, Billy Ben?
It's got this weird, like, frantic, hysterical redneck nonsense vibe to it. A wart toad, Billy Ben.
And yet it's still, because it's Southern, she still talks slowly. That's like her at high speed.
Yeah, exactly. To even dip into the logic of why Jess-Belle's mom is so eager to kill her, let's just not go there. Let's just move along to the wedding. Billy Ben, in the midst of all this, notices a spider on Blondie's veil, which he then...
Suddenly we've got a comic book origin story happening.
It's a bit like that. He pulls off the spider and smashes it, but it turns to smoke, leaving him, of course, to believe that it's Jess-Belle. But they make it back home safe to Billy Ben's place, and then it's just 10 minutes of hardcore sex. Church sanctioned. No. At this point, Jess-Belle puts the witch on Blondie. Jess-Belle's got her under some kind of devilish control. And then Jess-Belle attempts a very pathetic assassination attempt by assuming the form of a white rat and like trying to tip a grandfather clock over.
Well, the logistics of it were impressive. Yeah. The fact that she was able to get the leverage from such a small creature.
Well, I mean, she is a witch, but it did have a bit of like a Rube Goldberg assassination attempt to it. Anyway, it fails, and at this point, Billy Ben's gonna go out for cigarettes,
but the
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, this might be my favorite part of the episode, where James Best or Billy Ben's basically like, Jess-Belle's a witch, and she's really dangerous, and she's trying to kill you. I'll be back.
Yeah. He does give her a Bible. He gives her a Bible. I think that's like, have we heard that?
No, we have not heard that that's going to be, good protection.
Anyway, Billy Ben runs over to Granny Witch's house, which is either miles or minutes away. Yeah. And he explains that that he wants to get rid of Jess-Belle, and there's only one way to do it, which is to kill her, which you can do by making a hillbilly voodoo doll. This is, of course, after Granny Hart tries to trick Billy Ben into like giving him a lock of her hair, which probably would have made him like her sex slave or something. But he pays her with money, so he, he's rich, so he doesn't deserve to turn into a witch and die.
Right.
So anyway, he gets instructions for how to make this hillbilly voodoo doll. Then we see this scene of Billy Ben consulting with Jess-Belle's mom on how to kill Jess-Belle. She's really on board with it.
The classic scene of any horror movie.
Just get her in the heart. She hates that.
Right.
So Billy gets home in time to make a Jess-Belle voodoo doll. It turns out that Jess-Belle has taken over Blondie's body, but it's to no avail because he makes this voodoo doll. He stabs it with a silver pin, thus cashing in on the foreshadowing of the first act. At which point...
hours away.
Yes, exactly. And at this point, Jess-Belle kind of appears and dies. And... In perhaps sort of like a nice coup de grace, we don't even get a Serling outro for this episode. It's very much Rod just being like, I gotta catch my flight, guys.
Instead, we get kind of a bizarre It's a Wonderful Life reference.
I remember a wedding. Did I dream that?
No. You're my pretty little bride.
Well then,
Gender.
I should be cooking you some supper. Billy Ben, look! My mama says that when you see a fallen star, that means a witch has just died.
So I've heard tell.
That's right. That's right. Good job, Jess-Belle.
Dark was Jess-Belle. Both they loved the same man. And
Let old acquaintance be forgotten.
God. Every time we see a shooting star, a witch is screaming in hell. What the? Oh,
Yeah.
God. Old Earl Hamner Jr. playing fast and loose. That's good stuff. So that's the end of the episode.
Fred, to jump ahead to trivia, would you be astounded to hear that this episode was written in under a week?
I would be shocked. It only occurred to me, like, talking about it, why was the spell of infatuation broken? Because it's not like Jess-Belle died.
Maybe, like, part of the contract is you need to purchase another spell for every form you take.
Exactly. So
It's
it was
really how they get you. It's the additional microtransactions.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was voided when she turned into a wart toad or whatever it is.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird because this episode has the feel like it's supposed to be based off an old Appalachian folktale, but obviously with gems like every time you see a shooting star, a witch is dying, indicates that it's not exactly the most authentic, but I do think we can say that it's like based around stories of that nature, and like this is not, the idea of these two women and one of them, what is like the meaning of that? Like why? Or
You mean what's the point of the overall episode, or what's the point of like the folktale?
Like imagine like
milieu
a sincere, authentic folktale version of this, of which I'm sure there kind of is more or less, maybe minus all the. I think is it just like a woman? I
think it would just be
or what is it?
I don't know. I mean, I think it could just be a puritanical, like, beware of harlots and brunettes, more or less. But I don't know. It seems like you should have at least some small sympathy. I don't know if that's our modern read or not. Like, it feels like you should have at least some small sympathy for Jess-Belle because
you really do. She's like a far more likable character than Blondie.
Well, she just got more depth to her, and it seems like Billy Ben did love her and leave her, and then she kind of gets. I'm not sure. How much do you think this episode is trying to make Jess-Belle sympathetic? I feel like there's at least a little bit with her. Will she? Won't she marry him when she finds out what the situation is?
I think it's actually very sympathetic to her, which makes the whole second half of it, like the triumphant murder of Jess-Belle, like a little bit weird. I don't think it's just a modern reading because, like, I feel like, I don't know, as an audience, it's a lot easier to, like, sympathize with the person who's, like, getting scorned and is wanting something as opposed to, like, the beautiful, rich, blonde girl who ends up with the hero in the first 3 minutes of the episode. You know what I mean? So I think immediately your sympathies are with Jess-Belle. You understand, she was burned.
Yeah, and it seems like the bad that she maybe does is somewhat out of her control since, she's unwillingly turning into a cheetah and attacking at night. But I guess when she becomes the spider and the mouse and kind of, starts taking pot shots at Elwyn, maybe that's when she crossed the line.
Yeah, when she starts chucking grandfather clocks. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be easier to analyze it on that level if this was actually an authentic Appalachian folktale, because then you could talk about, like, what it meant. I do think there's a lot of, like, old ballads about, like, the butcher's boy and the wagoner's lad. They're all about, like, a woman who's, like, promised things by a man, then he leaves her, and that's, like, her ruin. And I do think there's, like, something interesting in all of that, but it's, like, usually it doesn't involve, like, a cheetah. Usually those
The
kinds of
classic Southern cheetah.
What we doing next?
Bios and trivia. Bios and trivia. Bios and trivia. Yeah. Mark Scott, Siegfried, Mark Grams Jr., Siegfried and Grams, and IMDB.
So this is the only episode of the original series with no closing voiceover from Rod, although he does provide the introduction as usual. That's just kind of self-evident. Mark Scott Zickery's book, The Twilight Zone Companion, has kind of a long story about the writing and production of this episode, more so than he often gives. I don't know why this, and he seems to really, really like this episode. So I don't know, made me think I was missing something. But
Yeah.
the long story short is they had another, and I'm sure Grams can expand on this. They had another episode in the pipeline. It fell through for one reason or another. They called up good old Earl Hammy and said, "Can you crap something out for us in a week?" And he said, I can.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we got.
There's a quote from Earl Hamner in the Grams book. It says, Herb phoned me one day and asked if I had any script lying around somewhere, recalled Earl Hamner Jr. I said, no, but I can write one if you need it. Herb didn't think I could write one that fast, but I did. I wrote the first act in one day and took it to Herb. Anyway, that's that.
Yeah.
This is sort of an interesting little thing. This is from the Grams book as well. There had been a number of teleplays written for the Twilight Zone to overlook any form of narration because the authors knew Serling himself would write one himself. So it's interesting because I've heard in other places that the writers would sometimes write the things for Serling, but this seems to indicate the opposite. Also, James Best recalls
send an email to MGD.
so
Figure that out.
Well, I mean, you guys are Monster Bash buds, so maybe you should do it.
Well, I like to just keep our relationship
Right.
in person.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're having a brew together, I
Yeah.
could bring it up.
Save it for the bash. James Best shares some memories about how he liked kissing Anne Francis, teaching an actress how to speak with a Southern drawl. That's about it. Bios.
Cool. Anne Francis played Jess-Belle. She was also in The After Hours. James Best played Billy Ben. He was also in Last Rites to Jeff Myrtlebank in The Grave. Laura Devon played Ellen Glover. She wasn't in any other episodes. Jeanette Nolan played Granny Hart. She was also in The Hunt. Virginia Gregg played Ossie. He was also in The Mask. John Lormer played the Minister. He was in Myrtlebank, Execution and Dust. George Mitchell played Luther Glover. He was in Ring-a-Ding Girl, Execution the Hitchhiker. Jim Bowles played Obed. He was also in The Arrival, written by Earl Hamner Jr., directed by Buzz Kulick. I thought this would close it out, but we actually have one more Buzz episode to do, so we'll have to hold off on our overall survey of the Kulick,
What about
collection.
Earl Hamner?
I think we have more Earl to do. Didn't he write Bewitching Pool?
Oh, I hope so.
I kind of assume so.
Hope it wasn't Rod.
Yeah, we still have Earl to do.
Do we have...
Unfortunately, we do not have a Mystery Science Theater connection this week. So,
we do, however, have IMDb ratings. What are they?
IMDb gives this episode a 7.5, which is pretty solidly middle.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing about this episode for me is it just doesn't feel Twilight Zone-y at all. I mean, down to not even having a Rod Serling outro. It just feels kind of like a bunch of, Southern folktale cliches kind of jumbled together in a package that's a little lackluster. I don't think it's terrible. I think I like I think Granny Hart is kind of a fun character, and I think Anne Francis does as best a job with Jess-Belle as she can. But it's kind of in the four bore territory. Not that it's so boring, but it's in that realm.
It does have a lot of plot to it. There's a lot happening, so in some ways four bore might not be the right word for it, but it still feels very four season four.
Chore?
It fits, four chore. Yeah, it still felt like a slog.
Yeah.
The actors are doing what they're asked and paid to do, just kind of southern it up for an hour.
Pretty much any episode of the Twilight Zone, but
I guess. I mean, they're doing an okay job, but it's blah, and it's just not very interesting. It's not very engaging.
Yeah.
The twist of her becoming a cheetah is surprising, but
I think it like lacks like a powerful like plot engine. You know, it's kind of like it's not like who wants.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
we didn't even really talk about the part where at one, like the midpoint of the episode, they're just like, wow, Jess-Belle died about a year ago now, huh? Yeah. Oh, well, nothing much has happened for a year. Like, that's kind of an odd choice.
Maybe she took like a year off to find herself or something.
Yeah, she was just in Europe. Eat, pray, witch.
Yeah. Like, a lot of these Southern Fried episodes don't seem that Twilight Zone-y, but this one in particular, down to like the weird folk song running through the whole thing.
It could maybe sneak by with a 5, but knowing that Earl Hamner is responsible for all this, I just can't help it. Let's just say 4. And that, I feel like that might even be a mite generous for this one.
4, no more. That wraps it up for Jess-Belle. Thanks much if someone requested it. I don't know if they did.
Soul Soldier 19, thank you very much.
Thank you, Soul Soldier. Next week we're going to do another episode, which you're going to have to stay tuned to our social medias to find out about. There's lots of ways to get in touch with us. John, what are they?
You can send us an email at twilightpwn@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at twilightpwn. You can check out our website, twilightpwn.tumblr.com, where you can also donate with our pledge drive. There should be a PayPal link there. You could like us on Facebook. You can listen to us on any kind of podcatcher app. And if you're over in iTunes, you can subscribe to us and leave us a rating or review. We really enjoy reading those. So thanks.
So let me ask you this, John.
Hit me.
Hypothetically, let's say your wife turned into a cheetah from midnight until 6 a.m. Would that be like
you're pretending, you're assuming she doesn't?
Right.
Go ahead.
I don't think people really say she's a real cheetah in the sack.
Well, down south here in Pittsburgh, they do.
She's a real, I don't know. She's a real marmoset in the sack.
All right, go on.
Would that be
cheetah from 12 to 6?
Would that be like a deal breaker, or would you kind of like find a way to make it work?
I'm a very nervous person. I'm the one who puts the railings up and the safety things up there, and so I'm not saying it couldn't work, but I'd be hesitant to live with the cheetah on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more.
Now, would I take a tumble just to see what it's like? I don't know. Maybe. How about you?
I'm a little more loosey-goosey. You know, I think it's important. You know, I'm on the verge of getting married, and I think, like, you know, me and my fiance are, like, you know, discussing the whole cheetah issue. And
right.
I think she needs...
It's good to just get it out beforehand.
She needs her time, you know what I mean?
Right.
And if that's like midnight to 6, stalking gazelles, and, you know, she's entitled to it.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, talk to you next week, John.
All right, later, Fred.
Lates.
Kind of gal your mama done warned you about, and your papa done tipped his a cap to. High
level of difficulty on this one.
Yeah. And your papa done tipped his a cap to in passin'. Which un will he choose, and what un will he? So
almost
stupid.
there.
Almost there. Which un will he choose, and what un will the consequences? Sorry. I can do this. I'll stop. Okay.